Europe is gripped by a terrible crisis, leading Spain to adopt methods to fight resource shortages. The "there won't be enough for everyone" plan comes into effect, ignoring the lives of pregnant women and children, forcing some of the people to leave the country. However, doing this properly is not easy, and people turn to illegal means. To save their lives, Mia and Nico, a married couple, arrive at a point for illegal human transport to other countries. The man who meets them pushes the couple to hurry as. Police cops are everywhere, and helicopters are watching the situation from above at the endpoint. It becomes clear that an additional payment is needed for their rescue. Nico asks his wife to give up the last thing she has left, her wedding ring, and the woman with tears in her eyes hands over the jewelry. Finally, the family finds a container that will be carried by truck to the port, where it will be put onto a ship and then sent to Ireland. And here it becomes clear that Mia is pregnant. Several other families with young children are hiding in the bin with them. But people do not speak to each other, thinking only of their salvation. Nico treats his wife to a rare treat, chocolate, which he asks her to save for celebrating their escape. After all, Ireland is a country that will never bend under Europe, so they will surely find safety there in the morning. The truck set off on its trip, and Nico asks about Noah's well-being. He has already come up with a name for their daughter. Although Mia would prefer to have a son, the woman is worried the baby is not moving. But Nico reassures her after they suffered the loss of their daughter, who was taken by the troops, everything will be fine. At that moment, the truck is stopped, and a crowd enters. The smugglers order the newbies to go back, and under the fear of weapons, they drive everyone away without distinguishing between those who arrived first and those who arrived later. Nico gets caught in the wave and is pushed out, ignoring Mia's protests, and screams. The second group is put into a green truck that follows behind. The couple talks by phone, and the husband promises that he will get out at the first stop and be with her again. The truck goes through the streets where people are protesting against the seizure of children and government tyranny. The truck's body is filled with bullet holes, and Mia witnesses all these horrors and cries in helplessness. Soon the truck is stopped by the military. Their commander forces the driver to open the truck, suspecting that the fugitives are hiding behind a false wall. He tells them to come out, or his men will shoot everyone right through the wall. Mia manages to climb onto a high wooden crate in the middle of the cargo room when one of the girls opens the door and the soldiers begin to fire. Mia, lying on the box, clenches her mouth to keep from yelling in terror as her fellow travelers are killed by bullets. After killing the soldiers, throw out the bodies, clean up the blood, and open the truck. Mia tries to contact Nick to tell him about the deadly inspections, but sadly, he is unavailable soon. Mia's crate is loaded onto a ship, and she sets off on her journey, not knowing when she will reunite with her husband and whether he will be able to run from Spain alive at all. The woman falls asleep sitting by the wall and wakes up from strong jolts. The ship has entered a storm, and large metal barrels begin falling into the ocean. Maya hears the words of sailors and tries to get their attention by shouting, but they busy with their own survival. Pay no heed to her, please. After one particularly strong jolt, Mia hits her head and loses consciousness. The woman regains consciousness in complete quiet. There is nothing to be heard outside. It seems the storm has ended. She peers through a bullet hole and realizes with fear that her container has fallen into the ocean, and now it is drifting idly on the waves. Mia tries to contact a no, but her phone is wet and no longer works. Then she remembers a bag left behind by one of her fellow travelers, and inside it, she finds a working phone. However, it turns out to be locked, and she can't make any calls. She sees that water is seeping through the bullet holes and starts searching the goods. In one of the boxes, she finds clothes, which is very timely since Mia is wet and cold. She changes into the dry clothes and continues to check the cargo. She finds headphones and booze, which won't help her seal the holes. But finally, Mia finds some tape and uses it to try to stop the water from entering the container. Soon, Maya finds her notebook with photos of her daughter, and then hears desperate cries from outside. Peering out, she sees a green car nearby with her husband inside. She yells, but she can't do anything to help those who are drowning. Mia changes SIM cards and tries to call Nico again while watching the container sinks in the water, and then the call goes through, but the message informs her that Nico can't talk. She keeps replaying the short message, learning that her husband is no longer alive. She prepares a knife, hoping to end her torment, but then her child moves for the first time in the last 2 days, and she puts the knife away. Mia lays down to sleep, but the container starts making weird sounds, and when she wakes up, she sees that water is all around her, and she is sinking. She screams in terror, and suddenly wakes up for real. There is indeed a lot of water in the bottle, but the level is not important. Mia opens another box and finds plastic packaging boxes in it. Although initially this find only infuriates her, she soon realizes that they can be used to make patches for the bullet holes using the found pipes. She pumps the water out from inside and seals the holes. Mia constantly tries to contact someone, but there is no network signal. She takes an inventory of her stuff when suddenly a phone call comes through. On the other end of the line is her husband's voice telling her that the driver has left them outside the city, and now he will have to catch up with her. Mia shares her terrifying situation, and he reassures her he will come up with a plan. Mia eats the leftovers of her food and stares out at the ocean for a long time, hoping for help. But in the evening, another storm starts, and with it come labor pains. Mia struggling in the water. Flooded container calling out to her husband, but there is no one to help her. Finally, she gives birth to a baby girl who isn't breathing. Mia prays for a miracle, and the child lets out her first cry. The woman put the placenta in a plastic container and makes diapers from the clothes she has found. However, the baby refuses to eat and cries incessantly. Then Mia remembers seeing a drill among the belongings and tries to drill a hole in the roof, but girl keeps crying and the stress gets to Mia. Shouts at the baby, but quickly apologizes for it. In the evening, the baby finally latches onto her breast and after eating falls asleep, giving Mia a moment of respite for eating. The next morning, Mia continues her work on making a hole in the ceiling, and when she is almost finished, the drill's battery dies. Depressed, she tries to turn on her phone again, but it refuses to work. Mia tries to make the hole in the ceiling again and again, but it's all in vain. Inside the jar, it is extremely hot, and there is not air to breathe, so Mia cools herself with salt water, periodically climbing to the holes in the ceiling to breathe the sea air. Her position is further complicated by the fact that in her efforts to break through to the air, Mia injures her hands. One night, Mia hears strange sounds coming from outside, and her container starts swaying dangerously. She realizes that her makeshift craft has attracted the love of whales, and they are trying to play with this new item. The baby starts crying, and Mia, holding her child, knocks on the walls in hopes of scaring away the sea creatures. When that happens, she sighs in relief. The 6th day of her captivity arrives. Mia has almost fully drilled the distance between the holes in the ceiling when her knife breaks. Water is running out as well, and Mia tries to collect dewdrops on the containers, but there are very few of them. Finally, Mia loses her strength in a delirium. Her bigger daughter Uma comes to her begging for her to leave this place. The girl accuses her mother of letting her be taken away as she just wanted to play outside. Uma leaves, while her mother begs for forgiveness, and right after Mia feels her husband's touch covering her and told her that it wasn't her fault, the woman returned consciousness as fresh rainwater pours through the holes onto her. Mia stacks some boxes to collect the water. Suddenly, she discovers the last can of canned food. After replenishing her strength, she promises her daughter that she will get them out of here and restarts her efforts to escape. Finally, she manages to bend a piece of metal and sees the sky. Mia laughs and then climbs to the surface to examine the sea. She then takes her daughter outside to show her the sun. After changing her daughter's clothes, Mia throws the diaper into the water and suddenly spots a fish there. She makes a makeshift fishing hook from wire and tries to catch at least one. However, her tries are failed. One day, she sees an helicopter in the sky and tries to signal it with a shard of a mirror, but ends up hurting her leg on the sharp edge of the hatch. Mia heals the wound with the found alcohol and stitches it up, occasionally losing consciousness during the night. Mia spends her time weaving nets from wires, as she has a whole box of headphones. Finally, she catches a fish and eats it raw. Meanwhile, the water level inside the container continues to rise, and although Mia periodically pumps out the water, her homemade vessel is falling deeper into the ocean. The 12th day of her voyage comes. Mia shows her daughter pictures depicting herself at work, at school, and her father Nico, the owner of a small shop that had to close due to food shortages, but people always came to him because he always found a way, and now he will definitely find them. There's also a picture of Noah's grandmother, whose name Mia wants to give to the little girl because it means a long life. Also, the feminine form of Noah, who went for a long time and managed to reach land. Then there's a shot of her sister Uma, who wanted to become a pilot, but when the regime came to power, Mia and Uma had to stay at home. The girl really wanted to go outside, and one day her mom took her out against her better sense. The military noticed the child and took her away. While telling all this to her daughter, Mia sees that the girl is not feeling well. using a light made from a thermos, and drink she tries to warm the little one, wrapping her in a sweatshirt. She sings to her sleeping child and then falls asleep herself while her ship continues to drift somewhere later. The water hits the critical level. Mia, determined, she emerges on the surface, and her phone starts ringing. Nico's voice comes through the radio saying that he won't be able to reach her, and she'll have to save herself. He's hurt and hidden in a container. He has fought hard to live, but his loss of blood is significant, and he understands that his time is running out. He wants to say goodbye to his beloved wife and their newborn daughter. Maya says that she will fight and hands the phone to her girl so her father can talk to her. Mia expresses her love for her husband as the phone power dies and his voice fades away. The woman lies on top, gazes at the stars, and suddenly remembers that she still has the Snickers bar her husband gave her in her pocket. Day 26. At sea, the container is slowly but surely filling with water, and there comes a moment when Maya has to climb to the top and stay there. With her daughter, she builds a raft from boxes and debris. When a bird lands on the container, bringing hope of rescue, Mia retrieves everything she can from the sinking container, while the homemade raft with her daughter on it is washed into the ocean, and Mia's leg gets tangled in the ropes. The container sinks as Mia fights to free herself. She manages to do so at the very last moment, but resurfacing, she doesn't see the raft and cries out in despair. Finally, she hears her daughter's cry and swims toward it. Whales swim around, but they do not harm the humans. Morning comes. Mia regains consciousness, asks her baby to bear with her, and begins to throw away the fish she had previously caught. She thanks No for saving her life. She did everything she could, and then she hears seagulls screaming. Overhead at this time, a fishing boat is throwing nets in the area. A hunter and his family notice the birds circle something in the water, head towards it, and find the raft with the child. They pull it on board and see a rope connected to a crate pulling on it. They find a woman tied to it. They lift Mia on board and perform CPR, bringing her back to life, and just when it seems that all their efforts are in vain, Mia starts to breathe. She regains consciousness and quickly asks about her daughter. They hand her the baby while the angler calls for an ambulance to the nearby port, which is meant to arrive in 20 minutes. The fisherwoman reassures Mia that they are safe as Ireland is close by. This story touches upon an important and distressing current issue. Refugees, people flee their homes when it becomes impossible to live there anymore, but so many of them perish before getting safe.